Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I am the Diva D from Carved Out Divas.
April Cobb with April's Beauty Bar.
Hi, and together we are Diversity.
And Equity in Education.
Yes, and we're being hosted by the fantastic and phenomenal Teaching for the Culture, headed and led by Bianca Goolsby. And we are just so pleased, first of all, just to be Black women in America today. That's an understatement of the day. That's what all I want to say about that is that it's an understatement of the day. So April, how are you doing? Now, what's going on with your week? Your past week, rather.
Mm, It was a normal week. Wasn't nothing extravagant happening. Just trying to make sure these kids get focused as much as they can with all that's going on in our current everyday here in the Tampa Bay area, knowing the demographic of kids that I serve. So
Hmm.
it's pretty normal. How about you?
Okay, that's good. So good. Listen, pretty good. We've noticed some changes a little bit, just a little bit of changes as the week has gone by. I think that the kids are well. What we're noticing is when they're coming back into school. So we have a set of kids who originally were online, and now they're starting to be funneled back into the school. And so the big thing is for them to understand the rules and the established procedures that we have in school. I think what might have been helpful is if well, definitely what needs to be done is for them to have like some sort of orientation, just reintroduce the kids to the school, because I noticed that when you start putting kids back in from who have never been in school, and now we're in like in what month are we in, November? They're really just coming back as if to say, hey, I'm here, and I'm here, and just accept me as I am. But they don't understand the what how our school works or how our school operates, and the safety parameters that are in place, and the reason why you have to go sit here, the reason why you need to stand over there, the reason why this has an actual piece of tape with your name on it. This is a desk that you sit at. Okay, so for them, it's sort of like throwing a little monkey wrench in a plan that, in what is it, in a well-oiled machine. They're throwing a monkey wrench in a well-oiled machine. So I seriously think that we, before we bring any more kids back in, that the kids really need a serious like an orientation phase, some kind of phase where, okay, listen, you're gonna spend the whole day practicing procedures, not just, okay, you show up to school and I'm gonna throw you in a class and you don't want to do what the rest of the class is doing. So if the rest of the class have a mask on and the teacher is telling you to put a mask on and you're like, I'm not gonna do it, well, this might not have been the best environment for you. Maybe you can go back home, because that's not what we do around here. So that's pretty much what we're noticing as kids start to slide back in from outside. That's one of the things, the big things that stand out to us, especially since we're in a season of high COVID. And it's, the numbers are not going down. If anything, the numbers are increasing. And we just recently seen last week what the teacher was from Plant High School, I believe it was, that has recently passed away. And if that doesn't tell you, I mean, it's here, it's in our county, it's around us, around our students, and we have to be wiser. We have to make much more wiser decisions, especially if you notice it's happening and you're trying to send kids to school. So that's my thought process on that. So what do you think?
I agree. There's no need to elaborate on that any further. We've been saying it for a while.
There you go.
I agree.
Okay. So guess what? We've had election. Well, wait. We've had election night since Tuesday. We've had election night since Tuesday. We've had results. It took us 5 days to get results. But in those 5 days, that's how you know the perfection of God. He works things out in the way He's supposed to work it out. Because it's great that the results were clarified. The results were pretty much settled and clear on a Saturday, so it did not affect work hours. People weren't really being distracted. It wasn't going to throw people off. Now we don't know how that's going to affect work on Monday. We already know, at least in my site, we started to see. We had some changes. Um, before the final count was called. So you may have to see some absences, things like that. No, just like, okay, listen, this is, it is what it is. One thing I do respect about the country itself is the fact that we did understand the democratic process. I believe that this process right here worked extremely well, especially because, and I think what drove it was especially because of the fact that we are in a season of COVID. So it allowed us to utilize more resources. Like, for example, we were able to utilize all the mail-in ballots. We were able to able to utilize, people, the early voting, and the significance of the counting and counting and counting. That was so important. And some states just do it differently. One of the questions everybody was asking was like, Florida, why Florida was finished before everybody else? Well, Florida has it in their constitution, bylaws, whatever you want to call it, that we can count them when they come in early. That's it. Other states literally, they had to wait until November 3rd. Every single ballot was in, and then they began the process of counting, which is the reason why it took 5 days. And so for people who are screaming and yelling fraud and this and like, why don't you read the constitutions of your states or the bylaws of your state, or go to the electoral websites for your specific state. They'll actually tell you this is how we operate. Each state operates differently, which I find very interesting. However, it helps you to clarify the process. This is what each state does, which is a shock, because that's why I was so blown away that Florida was done. No, we were finished on election night. Meanwhile, Nevada, the state known for counting and casinos, took all 5 days. They were like, look, 1, 2. I cracked myself up. But yeah. So what you gonna say about that?
Like you said, that it's important that, we realize that we live on one nation, but we all do things differently in each state. So I think that conversation was more highlighted when number 45 started to say fraud and all this other stuff. As long as the counting was in his favor, it was keep counting. But when it started to no longer be in his favor, he started to say stop counting. So it is what it is. The people have spoke. Let's see what shall happen moving forward, because a lot of people are caught up on, only thing I'm ready to see. I'm an action person. I don't want to know about, because this person is affiliated with that, this person is affiliated with this. I don't care about none of that. I want to know what works they're going to do and how well it's going to be done to a point of that it's in alignment with all the promises that you made during campaigning. The rest of that, I don't care. You could be be affiliated with Jesus. That's the only one that matters to me. Make sure your heart is pure and you do what you said you was going to do. Other than that, it take a lot to impress me. A lot, because we have seen it decades in, decades out. All the promises. Let's see if they line up. That's it.
So and that's also very, very true. My concern is always, well, my big thing is education, which is, I'm talking about top down, and also the student loans. The one of the things that was noted was and everyone was listening to was like, hey, listen, the student loans. Okay, we talked about the student loans sometime back in July. And so we wanted to make sure that promise goes through. They said for public people who are public servants, since we are public servants, as far as I'm concerned, we need to wipe away all of debt. Any kind of debt we got, that should be wiped clean. So, but like I said, we'll all that remains to be seen. The one thing I am happy about, the positive thing, is that we can truly say that in our lifetime, as people of color, in our lifetime, we have seen not only a Black president, but we've also now seen a Black vice president. So it gives hope, especially for girls, because it's so important for girls to see that you can become anything if you truly, if you take your education, value your education, and then you just also continue to surround yourself with people who are positive, who always want to uplift you and always make you believe that you can do anything. So, that's important for girls. Girls, a lot of times they don't, they listen to people who tell them that they have limitations on their lives. And that's when I say the worst thing you could do to a girl is to tell a girl that she has limitations, because she'll believe it. So don't ever do that. So that's the one thing I really got to say. I'm proud of the fact that we as a people, and then I mean as a people, meaning the United States, that there were enough people to truly say, okay, yes, this is the decision that we made, and this is what we want, we chose, and this is what we want to have. So I am happy about that aspect of that. I think I see some comments coming in. Yes. Hey, everybody. Hey. So but that's one thing I'm really, really proud of. And I'm, happy about this whole fact of that. So listen, we are now going back to school. We are now in the 3rd week of the 2nd quarter. All right. So parents, we're half well, I won't say half. Come December, we'll be halfway through. Okay. Now that means that whatever, if the child already, well, the grades are coming out soon, and the child did not score well the first quarter, we're looking at the second quarter to try and do a little catch up, a little bit of gains at that point in time. By the time we get to January, that's a semester of time that has gone by. Please understand that a lot of kids have not either logged in, they have not checked in. Please check with your child. Just ask, the one question you could do, instead of just saying, oh, have you done your work? Ask them, what did you learn today? That's a better question, because that time, when you ask a question like that, it literally means that child has to actually say what they did today. Okay, what did you do in language arts? What did you do in math? Not did I finish my work? That's not gonna, it's either require your yes or no answer. We don't want that.
That's a true statement, because at this point, a lot of kids know that their parents are anticipating on them coming back the beginning of the school year, not beginning of the new year. And I believe in their mind, they're thinking they don't understand in middle school. I know sixth graders and even some seventh and eighth, they don't understand the concept of quarters. They know that grades are happening, but they still see it as one big school year, and they don't understand the concept of quarters in the sixth grade. So they're thinking at the end of the year, something magical is going to happen that's going to automatically promote them. So they're not taking each quarter grades, I won't say seriously. I just think they don't understand it. And I know guidance counselors at my site haven't had an opportunity to speak to them directly about stuff like that. So it's definitely going to require parents to be intentional about knowing that when they get to middle school and moving forward, that quarters matter. And even in elementary, it does as well. But there's some areas that they're able to do more makeup and caught up on levels in elementary that you can't, it doesn't work that way in middle school. So just something to think about.
Yeah. Also the grades, a lot of them, I find it interesting that the kids will ask me what is like an 80% or what is 70% is. And I'm like, well, I'm wondering if, so has no one explained to you what the grading system is? Because I think there must be a difference between elementary school and middle school. So they must give out different letter grades or different, and I know you probably could see, because you have the kids are still in elementary. What's the difference? So because I'm trying to figure out why a lot of them will always tell me, well, I don't know what a 68% is, or what is a 72%.
Because they don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. Like mine know what it means because I explained it to them, but they don't talk about it with them. Only time they talk about grades in most cases in elementary is when they're talking to the parents. So the kids don't understand that. So again, a teacher will have to be intentional about going into details about the grades, because even behavior wise, I don't know why we're all not using A's, B's, C's, and D's even in elementary. I don't get that on level, above level, S's and N's. You could get an A and be below level in elementary. Like none of that makes sense to me. So I can't explain it because I've never taught elementary, but I know for mine, their teachers never talked to them about it.
Okay. Yeah, so because now it makes a lot of sense why, especially with the sixth graders, a lot of them were like, well, what does this grade mean? What is it? So I have to actually sit there and break down the chart and actually show it to them and say, well, this range is an A, this range is a B, this range is a C. And so for them, yeah, and you're right, because a lot of them will sit there and say, well, so what does it mean when the quarter come to an end? What does that mean? Or what it means? What kind of grade will I get? Will I affect another grade? And so the whole thing about breaking down the 9-week grade versus the semester exam grade versus conduct grade, things like that. That concept is a little off of them. So I just found it interesting that they did not understand that. But that's cool. Yeah, I'm always pausing in case you were gonna say something. All right. So now we're gonna move away from elementary school and jump right on over into high school. So listen. I'm still waiting on some statements. I think one or two statements may have come out regarding the rallies that were had at school over the past week, last week. It was last week. And I just need to know, in the event, say for example, tomorrow is Monday, and let's put some hypothetical situations out there. So tomorrow is Monday, and those the kids who were up, the children of color, who saw all this was happening on the schools, all this rallying, and then a lot of these racist statements, things like that. Monday is coming tomorrow. What will happen if they decide to do the same thing? What will happen if they feel like they're threatened, and they feel the need to come to the school and say, I got to make sure I protect myself because my classmates have shown themselves out, clearly over the weekend. The decision has been made election wise. And what I want to know what Hillsborough County's plan is to protect those students come Monday, especially when they're going back to the same schools. So, I mean, I don't know. What's the thought process? What people thinking out there?
I don't know what people are thinking out there. I just know that it's discouraging to children of color and children that represent the LGBTQ community. And we're not speaking from hearsay, we're speaking from a place of the information coming directly from those population of children and their parents. It's very disheartening that our leader just didn't have a blanket statement to assure those children that fall in those categories, to say to them that that behavior is not acceptable, and that we are aware of it, and you are protected on these campuses, and if you have any issues, identify who they need to go and see. Because just not saying anything about it, it definitely creates more divide, in my opinion, as it relates to, like, sometimes when you don't say anything, it's almost as if you're in agreement to things. So I think it can be viewed as that. I can't put words in his mouth, but I just know that it can be complicated when nothing is being said, because these children that fall in those categories where the messages were going around via text, that said that harm would be brought against the kids that were part of the LGBT community and POC, which we can only assume means people of color, that's a problem. And it definitely needs to be addressed by someone in leadership. And I just don't know why that didn't happen, but it's disheartening because it just creates more and more of a divide. And we don't need any more of that in our district. And I hope that there is there was some intention put behind what the possibilities could be on Monday as a result of the political election has now been, declared that Biden Harris won, that there will be no further disruption on our campuses to make anybody of children feel intimidated by a political win or the lack thereof at that moment. So I just think that something should have been said, to assure parents and those students and even the teachers that we're aware of it, and something, just something. Just don't go quiet about it.
I do want to give a big shout out to Gretchen. Hi, Gretchen. I know it's your birthday today. Happy birthday, and have a blessed one. You're always there to support. So hey, I see you out there. Legs, Gretchen, legs, exactly. But yeah, to your point, April, I that's the concern for me as well. What about the kids? What about the teachers? What about everyone who takes offense to it? And this is happening on school grounds. I mean, this during, like, the big thing is during school hours. So how safe are they going to feel? So it would be really nice if we had some kind of a blanket statement that came down. But you know, let's just say, I'm not, let's just hope the fallout is not going to be worse than what the actual action was that took place on Friday. So let's just hope that that's not the case. Okay. But in, it'd be on a positive, more positive, like a different school sites. I've noticed that people actually they held their own mock election, which is important for kids to have that to be able to see the process, the democratic process, so they're able to know what it looks like and how important is that. This is actually something that I think that it more of the democratic process should be taught. Like there should be a section where they understand the difference between the Senate and the House, and they need to look at that very, very carefully, because of the confusion. The more you just see what's going on in the news, and it's like it seems like this is a portion of class, a portion of instruction that kids just they just gloss over this portion. Like how are you not understanding the different roles of the different branches of government? So because it creates a real big issue. It's like people are expecting, just like you said at the very beginning, one person is not going to make a big difference. It's not going to change everything. They have to work with an entire body of people. You got to work with Congress. You got to work with people. So you have to. That's something that they need to learn. But also, I was really happy to see how many of them had their mock elections this past week, and how many of them, just trying to learn that process. Get a little free sticker. That said I'm a future voter, and I just thought it was really great to see that take place. So that was just awesome. Let's look at some of the comments. What do we got here? Are there students with? Can you see it on your side?
Eulalie says that she's at Gretchen says she's at Eulali's celebrating her birthday.
Oh,
happy birthday, Gretchen. Keisha says also you have students that have not been working during e-learning. Yeah, we've been talking about that now for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's like pulling what you call a wisdom tooth out of some of the parents' mouth, or let's say mouth, to help the teacher help their child by making sure that they are prepared each day to be in front of the computer. Like you knew what to expect from the beginning, because it was clear that it was not going to be like our pandemic learning at the beginning. It was nothing like that. It's much more structured. Still a tedious process, but it's much more structured. Ashley says she sees something. She said, I don't know, it's a bunch of eyes and teeth or something hot. She said it is truly preparing students for life. It is truly a safe place for all. She's referencing when we were talking about AD not making a statement at this point, or anyone from leadership coming from the top down. It could have been anyone. It didn't necessarily have to be him, just someone to assure those students that were targeted via text messages, via on site. Just say something to them. Ashley said, if there are students with Biden-Harris flags, it bet not be one reprimand.
Right.
Girl.
Because
what will happen is, let's give hypotheticals.
Okay,
because what we know what happened is, if you had a body of students that came with that paraphernalia on, it creates conversation that children can't necessarily handle. So the only way they would know how to deal with that is become physical and fighting and altercation, because they don't know how to handle just the words, most of them. So it would create definitely more of a divide, and then there will be violence associated with it. So we hope that there was a lot of intention. They were intentional behind what could possibly be a mess tomorrow. So hopefully we won't see any problems. Prayerfully, it's been taken care of.
And that's true. And then just for people just to pay attention to who you actually follow, because let's be real. While the rest of the country is in a hot mess, 45 was on the golf course playing golf. Like, he could care less but the mess that he left the people in. So that y'all going gung ho for one person who really don't care. And I was looking at this graphic the other day of the billionaires in this country, and then comparing it to the number of people in the world who are living below the poverty line. There's at least 7 people in this world that could probably feed every single person on the planet, because they have like 59-60 billion dollars. 7 people could probably feed every human being on the planet. But that's what human greed does. Greed. And what are you going to do with $59 billion? What are you going to do with that? With a B? But the fact that much wealth is amongst a handful of people, less than 10 people on the planet have that much wealth. And people are going crazy over their products, like Apple and iPhone and Microsoft. People going crazy over their oil, because that's the Israeli billionaires because of oil, and so you think about the people that are not giving back to you. Be concerned about the people that live in your neighborhood, in your communities. These are the people that are most important. Not losing your mind over somebody that could care less about you and your life. Playing golf
And
on
we
a
can
golf
even take
course.
it a little bit further that even those that are not classified as billionaires, you have those that's a couple hundred thousandaires, and they too become so disconnected in what's
Mm-hmm.
realistically happening to people that look like them. They necessarily not may not carry your same values, your same opinions, your same perspectives, but in the end, they still are deserving to live amongst you and not be hungry, starving, and have a place over their heads that's not
Right.
considered condemnable. So a lot of that happens, amongst our own cultural people, our own ethnicity of people, and they lose sight on what they come from and what they
Mm-hmm.
could easily fall back into because they're one mistake away from not having that acquired thousandaire status. Because
Because
thousandaires, it's easy to fall out of that status quick. Millionaires, not so much, but we lose focus so easily. And that's why we have so much. So we are at a place now where affordable housing here in the Tampa Bay area is starting at the homes that are $2,000 on average. That's
right.
craziness. When they're building $100,000 homes in East Tampa and the house across the street not worth $25,000, what is affordable about that? What is affordable about that? So it's just insane, like you said, that we just
Right. Oh, so I think she cut herself off. You cut yourself off.
see it, and then wonder why there's such a divide, amongst us as a black culture. We don't
Mm-hmm.
get it. We don't get it.
Right. Yes. So and that's important because people don't understand. You have people, just remember where you came from. And I think the one thing I truly am happy about the fact that I wasn't born and raised here is that I can always remember where I came from. I have a place to go back to. But even if you physically just this is where you grew up and were raised, you still came from a place, whether it was mentally, whether it's physically, you came from someplace else, and you got to remember. Okay, well, even if I left the community, I'm still should sit also I'm a part of that community because that's where I was born and raised. How can I help that community? How can I give back to that particular community? Because especially, and you should think, especially if you leave a community and your purpose for leaving the community was because it was getting bad. Wait a minute. So you knew it was getting bad and you gonna run away and never look back. As opposed to saying, when I leave this community, I've left people, children here, other people who are friends of mine here, so I'm content with them falling behind while I'm successful. It's basically all you're saying.
Crab in the barrel. Mhm.
That's really all it is. That crab in the
But
barrel
when it comes
mentality.
down to saying, "Oh, I rep such and such school. I represent. I went to Franklin Junior High. I went to McLean Junior High. I went to Brandon High, Tampa Bay Tech, Hillsborough High." Well, I do remember the boundaries back then were not what they are now. However, those children that are still residing in those communities, that they sparingly get an opportunity to still participate in some of those schools because majority of those schools are magnets now. They still exist. They're just not a part of the magnet programs, but they
Mm-hmm.
still need support. Don't just claim the football representation, saying, "Oh, I went to that high school," but what about the children that are still going to those schools that still live in the East Tampa area? So again, we
Mm-hmm.
just get lost. We
Yeah,
just get lost.
we really can't pick and choose like that. I mean, because or here's the other side of the coin. All right, well, I've made it. I'm successful, so I'm only going to go to the schools that are A and B schools that are nowhere in the neighborhood that I grew up in and are nowhere even close to even where I live right now. But I'm going to go over there because I need to show them that I'm successful. But where did you come from? That's the question. Where did you start? That is the question. You got to be able to start to. You know why our kids don't have hope? When a child tells me is still telling me that Black people cannot be doctors and they can't be lawyers, and because I've never seen one in real life. When I remember when we were at Waters, And the one child told me that the Cosby Show was fake, because there ain't no way a black lawyer and a black doctor could have, you know, a house like that. And really, so you've never in your life met one. So that's what set it off for me. I'm like, these children need some more positive influences in front of them.
And look, and you're gonna pull teeth getting one to stand before your mentorship groups unless they're affiliated with the larger ones like Boys and Girls Club, you know, HEF, you know, all the larger ones. So it's just interesting all the time. It's interesting.
But
I just sit back and be like, it is what it is.
But what's real interesting, though, I mean, I'm going to put it out there just like that. What's real interesting is I actually do get responses, but they're not from people of color.
Right. I was going to say that too.
Because I've got wonderful responses from people, but they just don't look like us. They want to help. And what does that say, though? I mean, we can't do that to our own people, because our kids, what our kids are seeing. As much as I truly love the help, and I will take the help where I can get it. Not saying that I'm against it. I love it. But the thing about it is that when the kids are seeing that, all they're seeing is people who are successful that don't look like them. They need to see people who are successful that look like them. The representation matters. Like when Kamala got on that screen and my nieces were watching TV, they were like, that lady looks like me. Yes, she really does look like you. And so it's real important that the kids get that, so that they in their mind, remember that these are growing and developing brains, that they do not equate success with being a different race. Success is not only football player, basketball player. Success is not only that. It has to be more than that. Like right now, I have a set of kids who they're literally, their goal is to play video games for money. Like they want to be on a team, a video game team, and they become, you know. And I think I saw a documentary about that. But I mean,
they're called gamers.
Gamers, yeah. But they
make good money too.
They do, but the thing about it is, it requires so much. You have to not do anything else but that. And it's on the hope that your team is so successful that you can make that money. But if you're talking about $100,000 split between 6 people, it ain't gonna last that long.
Well, hopefully this is kids doing this, because you got a lot of kids that do it. That's good money for them. They haven't even started paying taxes.
True.
But it's rare. But it's rare that a lot of children do that.
What I've seen is adults, though. I mean, we're talking.
That's what I just said. It's rare.
Every gamer team I've seen is like 20-year-olds or something like that, grown people. All right, somebody's putting something over here. Let's see what this says. All right, so Margaret, can you see that?
Margaret said, "This is nonsense. Who's talking to these children?" Seems like no one. That's the problem.
Right.
And as Margaret said, sad nonsense, because it's their parents who are putting limits on their children. You'll be surprised, Margaret. My parents didn't speak limits to me, and seeing successful people who look like me was not that made it. It's not so much as we're speaking from experience as teachers. It's so much as parents are putting limits on them. Parents don't see that that scope of visibility that you were exposed to, evidently through the lens of your parents. Their parents may have never experienced it, so how can they limit them on something that they are not conscious of?
Right.
So they just don't know. It's not that they're limiting them. That's just what they know about. They know sports provide a reputable income if they become successful at it. So that's what they're used to. Their cousins did it, their uncles did it, a few might have made it, but they may not have necessarily ever had a doctor, a lawyer, or someone like that in their family to, be able to look up to in that area. So that's my thoughts on that.
And
get out of television.
Right.
Well, some of them, that's the only way they're going to be exposed to certain careers. And there's no one to tell them that those occupations are realistic, and there are people that look like you that are doing them as well. They may not be highly visible on the TV, but it does happen.
Right. And in terms of what you just said about what the parents know, the one thing I truly pride my mom on, my mother does not have a college degree. She had a high school education, but she understood the value of education. So her whole thing was, what can I expose my children to that I've never had exposure to? So, okay, well, maybe they need to go over here and visit this place and see this, or they need to read this book, or they need to do it. And so she truly says, she claims all of our degrees as her degrees. She said, you know what? The amount of work I put in, all them degrees, because we don't have our degrees, they're in her house. So all of our degrees are in her house. She said, because I earned this. But that's what it is. But you have so it's teaching the parent to want more for their child too. So that's the thing. If your parent understands, and that's
But you can't say that in the same breath, because that makes the assumption that those kids' parents don't want more for those kids. So I don't know about that.
well, no, okay. They do. I mean, I know that the parents want for a lot for their children, but I'm saying, are the parents also too exposed to more? Like we should be able to make a large world small for parents by having like maybe outreaches and family nights and community building nights, things like that, so the parents also get an opportunity. Sort of like when you have those like open house with a little STEM stuff that we do at our school, where the parents can come in and actually see all the things the kids work on. But at situations like that or events like that, have all kinds of stuff that the parents can also see as well. Like, hey, we got a museum tour, we got this tour, we got that, we're going over here, we're gonna do this, sort of like that. That's what I meant.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I don't want the assumption made that you don't think parents want more.
No. So Conchita says, I heard the same statement with the guardian ad litem volunteerism. There are many Black children who need to advocate for them, but not many who looks like them. Okay.
Right. And they don't know how to advocate for them either.
Right. True.
Yeah.
True. Let's see. She said, who is ready to support our 28 transformational schools? That's Ashley. For real. 28. Explain to you what a transformational school. What were the former names of a transformation school? Because it was long before it was a transformation school. It was called many other things. What's some of the names?
Turnaround schools, Title I schools.
Right.
At first, it just was highlighted as Title I schools, and it was turnaround schools, achievement schools.
Yep.
Weren't they also star schools or something?
Yeah, I think it was a star
Renaissance.
School.
Like it was a bunch of names.
Yeah.
And now we're at transformational. So we keep changing the name, but the traits are remaining to demonstrate that children of color lead in the lack of demonstrating academic growth.
Correct.
In alignment with the Florida Standardized Assessment, back then the FCAT. Now that's a fact. That's consistent.
So basically the real question is out there is, have we transformed anything?
The name? Legs.
Take flight.
Yeah. So we may have reduced the number of schools based upon the criterion, in my opinion, changing. So it's exhausting. It's mentally exhausting.
You're right. And what it is that the more, what I found is, like my father used to always say, a little bit of education or a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. Meaning that the more we've been digging into the data and the more we've been finding stuff, we start to get more and more depressed. The data is depressing. You got to have no soul if you look at this data and say to yourself, or I'm not affected by it. Because the people that keep saying there's no such thing as pipeline to prison, the school to prison pipeline, there's no such thing as that. When I see the data of all the failing schools, of all and then the minority population is this high in a failing school, and the turnover this high, and the data keep on supporting DF, and no change. And you telling me that you mean tell me a successful set of people are going to come out of a school like that? Remember, failing neighborhood, failing school, failing system, then you'll end up down in front of the court. But everything works together. But let me just help you understand something. You know that parents aren't in school writing referrals. Parents don't do that. So when people say it's a parent, okay, but the parent
it's a community issue.
Right. The
parent, but if we go back, there were community issues back then.
Right.
But we didn't have schools of children like whole. Like maybe I just was so young not to pay any attention. Maybe my peers were failing and I just didn't know it, but there were only a few that was, were held back.
Right.
A few.
Let's go even further. When I went to school, and I went all the way from kindergarten to high school, I'd never seen a teen parent. Never. Unless they magically disappeared, like they took them out of school, but I never seen a teen parent. From kindergarten all the way to middle school, junior high, high school. I don't remember anybody being pregnant in my high school class. But now I actually worked in the teen parent program where everybody was pregnant. If that's not a societal shift, I don't know what to tell you. That's a societal shift.
It's the truth.
Because
let's look at it for our Go ahead.
So like something happened in the society which deemed it necessary. Because look, let me tell you, the stories about teen parent are very interesting. Either some of them actually parent told them to go get pregnant so you can get on these stamps and this welfare, or they were, abused, and somebody, let's be honest, some of them got into a relationship with people and ended up pregnant. Okay, but it became more accepting. Because it was like, look, we associate getting these babies with a check that's coming in. So someone did not stop that cycle of thought to say, hey, this is not the way you're supposed to live. And of course, how the government is, we're going to remove the male from the household, the head of household, because he can't stay here and if you're getting welfare. So now you've broken down the whole family. The whole family is now broken, the family unit. And now we're sending those kids from a single parent household to school. Free and reduced lunch.
Speaking of that, so in our transformational school, we now have 28 schools. And, it's stated that they're working to transform our district's most challenged schools and classrooms. There are 100% Title I schools, 23 elementary, 3 middle, and 2 K through 8. Of the 14,000 plus students, I want y'all to catch this. Of the 14,000 plus students that are being served at our most challenging schools, 88% of them are children of color. That should make, like, every time I hear that, it is so overwhelming. And they around here playing. 88% of those children are children of color.
And out of those kids who be successful, the children of color is usually going to be the Hispanic kids that might be successful, because at least they have a strong family foundation. Like in every class I have, the Hispanic kids are truly the ones who want to work the hardest to make their way out, because they know where they came from. But it's like, and y'all don't see this. Do you understand what the data means? Maybe we should draw, like I tell you, we gotta go back to cartoons. I think cartoons gonna work for some people. Some people just don't get it because we gonna keep talking till we blue in the face. But if they had some cartoons, some visuals, it might make a difference. Because how are you not seeing this? How are you not understanding this? Hey, well, what's these comments? Comments coming in like crazy. Let me see what these comments are saying. District 5 schools, you're correct. Let's see, now we say, oh man, let me go back down here. Go out in the world and get off the darn couch. I feel sorry for these kids who don't experience anything but TV, right? We don't have if you don't have the same roots, so I do, so with different experiences than many people in the United States, which is true. Go talk to some of them if their parents teach fear of rejection because they experience it. That's an interesting concept right there.
What?
If parents teach fear of rejection, it's because they themselves have experienced it. We all been rejected at some point in time too, so we have to work on, have to work on that. That's something we got to work on. We're gonna all get rejected at some point in time. What parent resources are provided for the lowest performing schools? Good question, Ashley. Parent resources. That's what you put together. Star schools, achieve schools. Yep, that's all the school names. Title I school, turnaround school, Renaissance school, all the names, every single name, but it's still the same. The initiative starts with reading second and 2 and 3 year olds. Okay. Yes, the data is depressing. The data is, and it keeps getting worse over the years. Keeps getting worse over the years. Okay, let's see what it says. Okay, Jessica asked a question. How can there be a 7th and 8th grader on a 2nd grade reading level? Okay. All I can assume at this, because I received them. I received second and I've had an 8th grader on a 1st grade reading level. Okay. What only thing I can say is they have been constantly administratively placed. They obviously academically they're not making it. So because of
Not
their
always.
age,
The majority, that's not happening though.
Well, most of mine have been administratively placed because their scores are so low. Okay, so they're just moving them on because of age. Because you can't sit in the 7th grade and you almost 16, so they got to keep moving you and moving you and moving you. Okay, but there's some kind of disconnect that takes place. Now I don't know how it is in the home, but whatever was happening between kindergarten and 3rd grade, and then by the time they start moving to that 5th grade year, right before 6th grade, stuff just start to disconnect. Stuff just start to, like they've lost that love of reading, the love of learning. Something has happened at that point in time. Let me tell you, them first middle school years, the 6th and 7th grade, if you don't catch them, it's pretty much basically by 3rd grade. If you don't catch them well, it's a done deal. So that's why I keep on harping on the fact that we got to have culturally rich, diverse material. Kids don't want to read something that they can't stand reading. You got to hook them first. I think maybe that's why I loved reading, because I got hooked. I can't remember what the stories were. My mom gave me some set of books and I loved it. And I have always been a reader, but that's because I got hooked with something I enjoyed. Because she started me off with Shakespeare, I probably would have hated reading. Okay. But you got to find stuff that kids love. So of course, whatever they were exposed to was boring to them, or they didn't get enough practice at it. Because what I'm noticing too is a lot of little kids spend all day long on the phone too. They're playing on a tablet. Like, okay, really, when are you going to let your child sit there and open a book? Let them go through a chapter book. Let them flip through a little magazine. Let them look at stuff, print. So that's a big problem too, because parents are not, they rather put a device in their hand versus put a book in their hand. So now it makes sense. Okay, if you got a device in your hand from the time you're 3 years old, by the time you're in 7th grade, if you're not reading a book on that device, you're not going to know how to read. You can press buttons. That's it. Question. Go ahead, April.
I don't have no questions. That's all facts.
I'm just reading some of the comments here. We can't compare the American children of color to immigrants. If they come in at the same reading level, yeah. If you think about it, right? I'm coming from a different country, and all I know is maybe probably 1st grade amount of English, and I'm sitting in the class with a kid that also knows a 1st grade amount of English. As long as that immigrant kid apply himself, he will surpass the child who's born here. That's a fact. That's an absolute fact.
We've seen it
from the Caribbean
in mass numbers.
And I came from the Caribbean, and when I got to college, I was looking at them like, so this is the level of English you starting off with? I had this in my junior year in high school. This is ridiculous. Put me in a different class. I'm bored to death. So you have to look at what they're coming in with. They're coming in with the same exact amount of skills. It's true.
I just don't know how the achievement gap widens, so like it just widens to a place in elementary that when they get to middle school, you like, how did you get here, sweetheart? How did you get here with not having, like, your foundational skill is so weak to where all you could do is be frustrated all day at school, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot for the kids. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But I do know on here for the transformational school, it says that 5.3 million federal funding is targeting funding for interventions and programs focused on equity, such as innovative curricula for reading, writing, science, and math. I wonder if that's the edgenuity,
right. And our kids are not 100% proficient on that either, because
their reading skills are so low.
Right. So if you're telling a child to open a file, download a document, then you're going to merge 2 documents together, compare this to compare that. Some of them are struggling trying to figure out how to just figure to navigate through the program, and then to type. Y'all, people, let me tell you something. People do not understand. Remember, I teach reading, so I have them typing a lot. They have to, explain themselves, or if they, because I want everybody to unmute themselves at the same time. You can't hear, so they have to respond in the chat. Let me tell you, it has forced me to slow down as a teacher because I'm realizing that the kids can't type. So they're hunting and picking and hunting and picking. So something that would normally take 30 seconds or not 10 seconds in a class to say now takes you a good minute to get everybody to put their response into the chat, because it's like, ooh, I got maybe a cup of coffee and come back by the time y'all finish putting responses in the chat. So it's like, but see, that's the skill set that also is not being managed and practiced well. They need to practice. We need to put nitro type in the chat for parents, so parents can be like, look, can you practice on this when you, instead of playing
Yeah,
Fortnite,
but you have to keep in mind, nitro type will have to. You're assuming that parents have computers in the home,
well,
and that assumption has been made. They don't have them. You have more computers in the home now,
yes,
than ever, because of the usage through the district devices. But these children, like most didn't have it.
Like
so I hope that definitely brought in the necessity that technology, meaning computer keyboarding, remember the practice ASD space,
the QWERTY
into schools, because technology is key.
Yes. And going forward, people have to learn to embrace it even more, because right now, like I said, we are in that season of COVID. We have the president-elect has actually rolled out a plan, because the first thing we have to take care of is COVID. And guess what? One of the plans, potential system in the plan, is that we have to go back home. We need to keep the numbers down. We have to lock this place down again. So technology is going to be the way out. So listen, let's just say this: budget. Okay, the one thing I've learned over years of my life is I always have to create a budget for emergencies. You must have a budget for emergency. If the fridge breaks down right now, I don't want to put it on a credit card. I want to pay cash. If the washer and dryer die, I want to pay cash. You want to be able to say to yourself, let me create some kind of little bit of little fun, take my 5 cents and save 2.5 pennies out of it, because eventually every child in the house is going to need some kind of device to do their work. Because sharing is not going to work really. I mean, it's good to say that kids are sharing, but we got to start looking at things that become a priority. Things that used to be for fun are now really a priority right now, and everyone is going to need some kind of device to help the kids learn. So that's just a thing to think about, especially as we get closer to tax time, because guess what? Next month is December. Everybody getting ready to file an income tax. January coming. Time to start taking some of that chunk of change right there and buying a laptop for every child in that house. Put that at the forefront before you buy anything else. Give every child in that house something that they can work on, because they're going to need it in the future. They are going to need it. Yeah.
I agree. Versus buying all these Xboxes, PS4s. If you have not purchased a laptop or a desktop in the home for your children to be able to successfully be able to have a device that they can call their own, versus the Jordans and all this other stuff, parents, we got to do better. We got to do better.
It's to help your child. We all want what's best for our child. Like I remember years ago, somebody told me, no parent sends the worst kid to school. They always send their best kid to school. Whatever comes out of their house, that's the best they got. So if that's the best, then you want your child to be the best. We want your kids to be great. So help us make sure that they're great by making sure that they have the tools that they need so that they can be successful. That's really what it is. Okay, I know we have coming down
that COVID has blindsided us all and shown us our deficits in society. Most definitely. If COVID didn't do anything else, it illuminated areas that have been capable of staying in the shade or go unnoticed as it relates to the impact of how our children just aren't receiving the equity in all facets of education like it's being stated on paper. Because on paper you can say a lot of things, but when the data keeps showing something different, when is there going to be some actual changes in the implementation of what you have on paper? Because obviously it's a very lie. It's been verified that it's a very lie, but it's a very lie in reality.
Sure is very light, because if you can keep on saying, "Oh my, the district has a B rating or something like that," but then you have
Yeah.
almost every single school in your District 5 area that have, you know, been declining. So are you using the A schools to balance you off? So to, because I need to take the A schools, because that's what it was. You teach math, so what is it? Median, mode, and mean, them three things that may be mad in school. You take them numbers and you can manipulate them numbers how you want to make it look like everything's good, but it doesn't negate the fact that you still got some schools that are pulling your number down. Well, you should have had an A
Well,
those
let's
on
think
purpose.
about it. Let's think about it. You got AP classes that account for stuff. It's
Mm-hmm.
equated differently. And keep in mind, if we look at it, 14,000, no more. I'm saying when they got this 14,000 K, that's probably under 20,000. That's a small percentage
Mm-hmm.
in comparison to how many students they cater to for our district.
Right.
So yes, it will balance out to that good old B. Mhm. We've been a
Mm-hmm.
B since what, 2010? I
But
think in
yet,
2010 they were an A, but they've never fallen below a B.
right.
Not for
But
our
yet,
district.
look at District 5. So yeah, that's wow. So hey, listen, to wrap it up, I want to say a couple things. Oh, listen, people, we have all been so enjoying the election results and going through this anticipation time of finding out. But guess what? Do you know that there is a tropical storm headed
You,
it already
you always looking
devastated
for
Cuba?
something to panic about. Calm down.
I don't want us to panic. I'm just saying, be prepared. I don't panic. I prepare. Okay,
You
a
be in
tropical
panic
storm has
mode
just
too in your
passed.
mind. Yes, you
It
do.
passed. No, it passed Cuba. It hit South Florida with hurricane strength winds already. So remember, just look at the cone, people. Please look at the cone. Just look at the cone. It's not even a cone. It's a bulb. It's like a big old bulb on the thing like that. So I just want people to be prepared. Just pay attention. Pay attention. That's all. I ain't no, trust me, I don't want nothing to roll through up in here. I do have a backup generator, but still, I don't want anybody rolling through. It's so cute. It's like a little thing this big and it has all the things, extension. Hey, I ain't gonna be out of power. That's all I can tell you right now. So, I'm what?
Oh,
Here
I
we
agree with that. And that data is capable of being pulled right now. They know it. It can't, the data can be click the right buttons to give you district grades. Yes, it can. Hmm.
Yeah.
Without question.
Yep.
I would
So,
challenge each board member, especially the ones that are currently, walking into office, ask for your district grade based
right.
upon the district that you serve. That would be interesting to know. And ask for the disaggregated data that shows your after, who is demonstrating academic growth based upon, the school setting that they're. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's all I really have. April, do you have anything else you want to add? Oh, real quick, people remember that Wednesday is Veterans Day, so there is no school on that day. Okay. I don't know if anything else I can think of.
Nope, nothing too much to remember besides go over to the Sunshine Education Coalition page where we are a collective body of teachers, community leaders, anyone that is interested in the systemic issue that has been plaguing our nation, especially with an emphasis on our Black boys, that school to prison pipeline is more of their norm than them going to college. So therefore, we would like to continue the work, the acknowledgement, the community awareness that we have brought forth and will continue to do so in efforts to shift and change the narrative as it relates to Hillsborough County Public Schools leading the school to prison pipeline. And there are other districts that mirror ours in the state of Florida, and they're doing much better than we are. And the question is why, and we want to know the how, so that we too can make sure that our children, this system is disrupted to a place that it gives them more opportunity for success than to lead up in a grave or behind bars. So I am April Cobb with April's Beauty Bar.
I'm the Diva D from Carved Out Divas. And we
And
are
like Ash said, and if you ain't gonna join the fight,
right.
and we'll see you all next week, guys. Talk to you
Good
later.
night. Good night. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.